I am joined today by Faith Bartelt, uh, former Shell Lake alumni in the music theater program. So, Faith, when did you start singing? Was it kind of like at a young age that you started, or did you get like lessons along the way? What was that like?
Yeah, my parents actually say that I started singing before I could talk. So like I used to like hum myself to sleep and like make these like weird noises, right? Like all that stuff. So music is definitely like in my family and in my blood. But I started taking piano lessons in kindergarten, and my parents on a whim like bought a piano at this big sale thing. And I like still use the piano today, right? Like it's just like it all started so long ago to me. I hated piano lessons actually. So I like faked my way through it, all the stuff. But yeah, I've been singing for as long as I can remember, in all shapes and sizes and forms. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So, I know piano lesson can get a little dry for sure. So, I can't blame you for that. Um, So when did Shell Lake kind of come into the process there of your artistic development?
Yeah, I saw a. So I knew I liked music. I knew I liked theater. I didn't really know what that looked like or meant, and then I decided I wanted to go to theater camp. And I'm from the Northwoods in northern Wisconsin, and so my family doesn't have a ton of money, and my family can't just like ship me off to some exotic place. And so we did a little Google searching, and Shell Lake came up, and Shell Lake is so magical, right? I mean, just this tiny town in the middle of nowhere. And so we drove 3.5 hours away to this little camp. um, and I remember my dad dropped me off and was like, Faith, if at any point you feel uncomfortable, like I will come get you, right? Like it was like my first camp away, and my parents were so worried. But it hooked me, and I kept coming back. And so it was such a blessing for a small town girl to have a place of opportunity, um, given where I come from.
That's awesome. That's such a great experience and like totally what they're striving for. So that's great. So which camps did you go to? Do you remember like which you went to along the way?
So I was a music theater kid all the way. So I went to camp from 2013 through senior year of high school, so 2017. And then I also was a vocal intern for music theater camp as well. So I got to continue working with those mentors in my life in a different level as I grew up at camp. Yeah, so 4 or 5 years of camp, and then an intern position for a week up at Slack.
Awesome.
Mhm.
And so during your time there, whether it was through the intern process or at the camps, what was like your biggest takeaway from your time at Shell Lake?
Um, So our Muth faculty, our music theater people have a couple of things that they teach on every year, right? Like similar exercises, similar whatever, and that's part of the hominess of camp is that repetition. Um, but there are three things, or at least two, I guess, that I carry with me. So one of them is love over fear. We make a lot of decisions out of fear as people. Being afraid of what's going to come, not understanding, right? Not taking that step out of that. And we talk just immensely about choosing love and what is the option out of love. So that was a huge thing. And then authenticity. Camp is a place where, all these misfits come together and somehow make something absolutely magical happen. But the magic can't happen without every one of us and without all of us and all of our faults and our glory, right? And so I have learned so much of my self-confidence and my ability to just trust in me and accept the differences, good and bad, about myself have come from this Shellick experience of all of these people that inspired me to truly just embrace who I am and who I want to be. um, yeah.
I think that's so cool that it's not just like a musical thing. Like it wasn't just what you learned there, those like lessons which are wildly important, but it's just kind of like personal development things too.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just such an awesome takeaway to have from it. And so through those things that you learned, kind of, how have you been applying them now? Like, what are you up to now?
Yeah. So I currently study musical theater, wow, at Viterbo University in La Crosse, Wisconsin. So I'm graduating this upcoming May with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in music theater and a minor in performing arts administration. I have recently kind of developed that performing is a passion, but is not my full calling. But what's really exciting is that I am really passionate about behind the scenes and about the community and the creative process and the functionings. And actually have started developing a concept for my own nonprofit. And I have actually also discovered a lot of my passions and excitement develop with programming very similar to Shell Lake. So I think Shell Lake has subconsciously kind of edited me more than I think I always let on. And I brag about camp literally all the time. It's so funny. But yeah, so performing is so multifaceted and takes you so many places. And I don't know where my journey's going, but I know that art is involved, right? Creating is involved. So
Sweet. Tell me a little bit about the nonprofit. That's awesome.
yeah. Well, actually, my grandparents have a farm in Wausau, Wisconsin. And Wausau has this thriving arts community. But the northern the northern region doesn't, right? Which is why I had to drive. We drove like 3.5 hours to get to Slack. And so I have been asking, I've always wanted to have my own nonprofit, but my amazing experiences at Shell Lake have kind of had me questioning, is that a place that I can bring that to for the farther east region, specifically, excuse me, or, you know, harvesting the vitality of an artistic community to then serve those that don't have it. You know, as arts are defunded, as schools have budget cuts, as communities grow and develop, how can we support students that come from places that are not wrong or right or good or bad, but places that need a little extra support sometimes in the artistic place, and a safe space for those students. So
That's fantastic. I mean, it's one of the most important things right now, especially. And we'll touch on it a little bit more later. I got some questions on that, but just having kind of that insight on it coming from a small town, it's really important to kind of have that focus, especially going forward. So that's super cool. That's fantastic.
yeah, stay
Um,
tuned. Hopefully something happens, right? We'll see.
yeah, keep it up. Honestly, that's great. So along the way throughout your college experience, growing up, what were some like shows or performances that really like stuck with you, that inspired you, that younger people maybe looking to get into music theater should check out?
Yeah, so actually, in thinking about this question, I draw a lot of my creative processes off of not a musical theater show. But in high school, which maybe students will be reading this in their schools as well, I don't know. We read a show called Our Town, and then we also watched a video performance of this production. And this show is one of the first shows to really just like simplify theater, right? It's a minimalist show. And so, I mean, like the props are literally like a table, a ladder, and a box, right? And that's the whole show. And it's a full length production. It goes through an amazing storyline, amazing characters, but it also is so simple. And so I think something that I struggle with is remembering that our audiences are creative and our audiences want to be a part of that creative process. And our audiences are smart and excited and can fill in blanks and can help create that world. And so I think sometimes we get so excited about just huge productions, right? All the stuff and the lights and the fancy gowns and the whatever. And this is a production I encourage students to just go look at and live in, because it's so simple and still just as beautiful and impactful and powerful to me as an artist. And so it just reminds me that not everything has to be elaborate to be powerful. Yeah. So Our Town, check it out.
Definitely, yeah. And that's so funny because I was thinking about coming into this interview, like my experience, my knowledge of theater and that art form in general. And I'm like, it's really limited because all that I have is the few shows that I've attended along the way is just like an audience member and seeing the performance, seeing what's going on. And you
Yeah.
don't realize all of those behind the scenes kind of things. And so like having a really like small scale, very simple production like that and still have it be phenomenal with like little to no materials or anything like that. It's incredible that they can still get the message across, and
Right.
that just speaks volumes about the production.
Yeah. And
So
so like not that the big fancy shows aren't fun, right? Like still go see them.
yeah,
There's a reason why we all love them. But I think for creatively, that's something I struggle with, is that we don't have to fill in all those blanks, and really is about the experience and the story, right? That's why we're
mhm.
on stage. It's it's not to put on a show, right? It's to share a story. So
Definitely.
yeah.
So, how has theater kind of changed, I guess, just in the past year? Like, what does it kind of look like now? And I know it's probably different for everybody, and people are doing tons of different stuff. But like, how has it changed for you, being in the theater, and has that experience kind of just changed?
Yeah. Well, obviously COVID has been crazy. So the theater in general is redefining itself. I think some people are worried it's like not going to come back or there's going to be some lull, but like art has literally stood the test of time so many times. I mean, things come, empires bear it illegal and still art, survives. So like this is not going to be the end of art. But for me personally, um, all of our performances at school were canceled. All those things. I was supposed to be directing at a middle school, and none of that happened. And so a lot of shifts and a lot of changes. I was lucky enough to have professors and a school that really valued the safety of our program, but the value of an in-person experience. And you can't really study theater without also, seeing people. So there are pieces, but there's still value in that. So I had a really great hybrid experience at school. Um, However, creatively, it's been really cool, and that I think we're seeing this with a lot of artists as well. Creatively, it's been a time to really develop yourself. Focus on what you want to grow in, right? If you're not learning lines for a show, like what are you doing with that time and how are you spending that? So I'm currently working on a Christian album just for fun. Like that might go somewhere, I don't know. And a fellow design major, he contacted a bunch of us this summer and was like, hey, I want to do an animated TV show. Do you want to like do something? And I was like, of course, right? Like all of us were just so excited. He's a phenomenal artist. And so I'm on a creative team writing an animated post-apocalyptic fantasy show. Like
Nice.
for fun, right? And so that's been really cool, learning about the creative process from a team. And like I have so much respect for writers now. Like no wonder it takes so long. Yeah, lots of church stuff and learning how to do self-tapes. That's a really big thing for our industry. If you are looking at going into professional theater, is a lot of things, even before COVID, are transitioning to that virtual setting, right? So learning how to make a good video and present yourself, and what material do you want to share and how do you share it? What do you need? And then equipment, like, do you need a microphone? Do you need to invest in things? So that's all been it's actually been a very huge growing process, even though I may not be, singing on stage at this point in time. So trade-offs, I guess.
So for you, it's kind of been just a more like well-rounded learning experience. You're seeing all of these different things moving that you probably wouldn't have seen otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, that this script thing is something I like, right? I like being creative, but like I never would have in a million years had enough time to actually dedicate to a project like that. And I'm like learning that I really like it. Like I never would have done that had this not happened. So happy accidents too.
So I guess what is one thing that you want people to know about theater and just the arts in general that you think should be a reason that they should support these industries right now?
Yeah. I think we as humans are creative beings. Creativity runs through all of us, and people will say I'm not a singer, or I'm not a painter, or I'm not a whatever. But I think if you look at any individual, there's art in their life. There's theater in their life. There's music in their life. And the reality is, I don't think we can really live without them, not to our fullest. They fill our minds. We see that impact students' grades and their relationships. They fill our communities. They give us purposes and safe spaces to discuss and develop and grow. And then they also give us just a space to breathe. And I think, especially now, we as a culture are going to need space to breathe and space, no pun intended, that was kind of sad, but space to, to decompress and to relax into. And, this may not be a time of really contemplative theater. This may be a time of joy-filled, beautiful theater, but all those stories are things that we connect to. And we as a people need that. And no matter what I think that is worth supporting. any age, anytime, any place.
And those stories need to be told too. So that's,
Absolutely.
yeah,
I'm excited
definitely.
to see what comes out of this. Actually, I was thinking about that. Like, if I'm having creative things, like what pieces are going to come out of this time? You know, how many new developers are we going to see? It's all very exciting to think about. So,
And you got to think like how you've been kind of writing and doing these other things that you've learned. So many other creatives are doing the same thing. Like, I don't know, I've just gotten into like painting a ton, which
yeah,
I had never had time for before. And it's like, oh my gosh, I love it so much. And it's kind of become like randomly a really big part of my life out of nowhere. And I'm like, I just something I never would have pursued otherwise. And so
right.
it's the stuff that we're already seeing coming out of this time is really amazing. But yeah, I think these next few years especially are going to be kind of just some really cool and like you said, just cheerful, hopefully awesome art, you
Mm.
know. So yeah. So you're graduating in May, you said. Um, any plans after that at all or anything like that?
Well, the arts industry is a little suffering right now, right? Even professionals aren't really making any money. So, however, I'm getting married in June, so that's very exciting.
Congrats.
Thank you. So that'll be a huge thing, and then we're actually planning on moving home for a little while. So saving up some money, kind of figuring out next steps. There's not a lot of certainty right now, so we'll take a year, work, develop ourselves, get skills, and then hopefully make a big jump. But I'm actually looking at setting up some nonprofit, either volunteer or potentially internship or potentially position. Again, if I want to have a place, I want to start that experience. So seeing if I can get my hands in some of that up north while we're waiting for the world to settle down for a while. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. So did you have any other takeaways at all or anything that you wanted to share? I mean, that's pretty much what I've got for questions. So
Yeah, I think if you're good, I'm good. I'm happy to talk, and I hope people can support Shell Lake because it has truly changed my life. So thanks for setting all this up. I hope other people have exciting things to share too.